We had a dinner party last night.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we
I
did.
think that were really fun
Yeah.
Me too.
Mhm. At the end of the day,
because we do that like once a quarter at least.
yeah,
We have a baking day.
we have a
Mhm.
party.
We bake all day.
We hang
We choose our
out.
menu and theme ahead of time.
Mm-hmm. Dress code,
Dress code,
spreadsheets.
spreadsheets, sign-ups. We're baking
Love.
all day. And then we have a little rest. And then we cook for our dinner party.
Yeah,
Take shifts getting ready. And then we have a beautiful dinner.
A perfect
Yeah.
evening.
We had,
It was so good last night too.
Yeah.
it was so
Best
good.
we're getting so good at portions. I keep saying it and I keep meaning it. We're getting so much better.
Yeah. The
Yeah, we
Italian
gotta-
summer theme was gorge.
We were literally in the Amalfi Coast last night.
No,
like,
it
can
felt
you believe
like
that?
it.
Lemons.
The pesto pasta. We had so many lemons.
So many
So
lemon
many
decor.
lemons.
I still have
actually-
lots of lemons in my car.
Yeah.
take
I
them in.
took at least 10 home with me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So many lemons. I have a bowl of lemons over there.
Lemon
we had
possets.
4. The lemon possets were so good.
Yeah, that was insane.
They were so
Yeah,
Like, thank you so
tiramisu.
much.
Tiramisu was so good.
Lemon
The
lavender
pistachio olive oil cake.
That was a star.
That was
Yeah.
amazing.
Pistachio, olive oil, blackberry
Yeah.
cake,
Mm-hmm.
which
Yeah.
sounds scary, but it was so balanced and
Guys,
delicious.
Don't be scared of a salty icing.
Yeah.
No, it was good.
I
It
love
was
a
so
salty
good.
icing.
Me too.
I'd never had one before that moment.
But do you like salted caramel?
No.
Types? Oh,
Ooh,
Oh.
Never
I'm
mind.
not like a sea salt.
sure.
Like,
Oh.
yeah.
that makes sense.
I like, and I'm also like more of like a dark chocolate girl anyway. So like the salt.
So like
the
sea salt
sweet-
on dark chocolate is so
It's
good.
so
Yes.
It
Yeah.
enhances. Ugh.
I'm there with you.
Okay.
But like sea salt on like caramel or chocolate, like that doesn't do it for me because I'm just not like a sweet
Mm-hmm.
person.
Fair enough.
I don't know. I loved. Oh, your dip. Your
Oh.
dip. I think your dip has been at every baking day.
Yeah,
at
it
this
has
point.
to
It's like
be.
a staple. It doesn't matter the theme.
For
Yeah.
sure.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Absolutely.
so good.
No, that was so good. We had olives and that was important to me.
Yeah.
One thing about us, we like to hang out.
We like to have a
Yeah.
party.
Friends.
We're doing
Yeah.
this whether it's recorded or not at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
That
it's
is
just what
the
it is.
truth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyone have any fun summer plans?
Go on the beach.
Slay.
What beach?
Myrtle Beach, South Carolina.
Cute.
Wow.
Yeah. My family's there. It's
Love
fun.
Yeah.
Grew up in West Virginia, so we like everybody from West Virginia goes to Myrtle Beach.
Oh,
People call it West Virginia South. Like you will see people that you know at Myrtle Beach.
that's so
Kind of
funny.
scary.
It's fun.
West Virginia South.
Yeah.
That's cute.
It's cute.
Everything I learned about West Virginia like really endears me to it, but I just like have no reason to ever be there.
Right. No, and it is. It's cute and sweet. And then the drugs ruined it.
Right. That'll do it.
And
Yeah.
That's
That Mountain Dew.
the Sacklers.
The
Sacklers.
Sacklers.
The Empire of Pain.
For real.
A book that I'll never shut up about.
Yeah.
Right. And so yeah.
We are like nonfiction girlies as well.
Which is so
funny.
weird because we
Yeah.
are.
Yeah, we really are. Like
Yeah.
the four of us, we are.
Yeah. I
Our-
even like want to be like, at our core we're fantasy. And I'm like, are we?
Yeah. Our public facing persona is fantasy girlies. Like we're the failures with the best of them. But like at the end of the day, we all got our nonfiction reads
For sure.
Yeah.
on lock.
I think the four of us we really like learning.
Yeah.
And that's what
Yeah.
it is.
For
Yeah.
sure.
I agree.
Oh, the other day somebody said something to me. I can't remember who it was or what the context was. We were talking about reading. And I remember who it was now. Okay, we were talking about reading and I was like, "Oh no, like I really like fantasy books or whatever." And this person was like, "Oh, I really like to read to learn, so I don't read fantasy." And I was like, "And actually, I learned so much from reading fantasy, so I'm not really sure what you're on about because I just read Sunrise on the Reaping. Did you read that? Did you learn about propaganda? Did you learn about politics and hierarchy? I don't know."
Right.
Anyway.
They're not sitting down and learning an Elvish language, you know?
Right.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Hello.
No,
Exactly.
exactly.
Precisely.
Yeah.
No,
I'm learning the history of the Vogue.
right.
No, period.
What are you learning?
Yeah. Well, I think the fiction of it all is interesting because I think fiction, like it's like reader's choice. You know, like you can learn
Mhm.
as much as you want to
Totally.
or not. Like
Or
you can
not.
just take it at face value and just be like, this is just a book.
So true.
Or you can be like, no, we're actually gonna lock in and use my brain for a second and go reading comprehension mode and like
Mhm.
really think about what I'm reading here.
For sure.
But I don't know.
Be
I think
entertained or
I'm-
not.
I think I'm kind of like a fantasy sun, memoir moon, nonfiction rising.
Mm.
Oh.
You know?
Yeah. I do feel very fantasy to my core though.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a
same.
double Aries, so I think like I'm
Uh-huh.
a double fantasy as well.
I could agree with that.
And then perhaps a nonfiction,
Yeah. Rising.
a very like specific type of nonfiction.
Yeah. I like that. Anyways, gonna
I
retell the
can't-
story of Emily and I meeting for the first time and her saying that she only like reads nonfiction. And I said, oh.
That's not what I said.
Well, the history books will record
Right,
it.
right.
Propaganda.
Emily propaganda.
Yeah. Well, you asked me what books I like, and I said, oh, I read a lot of what Olivia reads. Also, I like nonfiction. And your response was, oh.
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 That's so funny.
That is really my bad. I love her. Don't get it twisted. I adore Emily.
Emily's the best.
She has great
Perfect.
taste.
Oh my gosh. Stop.
She's good at everything. Should we get into it?
Let's get into it.
Okay.
Welcome to Always Booked. I'm Olivia.
I'm Emily.
I'm Hannah.
I'm Danny.
All right. And today we're just going to be chit-chatting about what we like to read. Predominantly, we are, as we've already established, fantasy, romantasy heavy ladies. That's kind of how our book club has turned out. We read a lot of fantasy and romantasy. And honestly, I think it's really interesting because it's the genre that has really just taken off in the last few months, years with book talks, emergence, and just like in the public sphere. I was driving to work one day and the Wall Street Journal has a whole episode like of their podcast dedicated to book talk and the rise of romantasy. Like just how it has single-handedly revived the publishing industry. And I think anyone in that space should be speaking on it just
Yeah.
because it's become so important to who we are. And obviously we have literally created a podcast out of its existence, and just how the perceptions in the greater public are for that. Because I think there are different preconceived notions that like women read romance books, women read smut, and like there's not this underlying element of like actual literature happening in the romantasy, fantasy, romance realm.
Right.
So today we're just going to be talking
Yeah.
talking about all these things that we love. And so
Let's start with that point that you just made. And we've talked about it a little bit before, but about the preconceived notions that women, I primarily see it talking about women, that when they have a book, the rhetoric now kind of is, oh, I know what they're reading. They're just reading smut. I've talked about this before, and I think it's a twofold type of conversation. One being, is that a way just to discredit women and what they're reading? And so what if we are? But it's also, which bothers me more, is that some books are like that, absolutely. Fine, whatever. But like our romantasy books, there's so much depth to it. And the like plot versus smut ratio is so vast.
Right.
Like there's a chasm in between the two.
For sure. I mean, you even think of like A Court of Silver Flames. Everybody, and I know even us, like everybody's like, oh, that's a horny book. Like that's a smut book. And it's like 3% or less that is actually smut of that book. So you're like, okay, wait, what? So I think we even catch ourselves doing it sometimes too. Like, oh yeah, that's a smut book. It's like, no, there's a lot of plot in it. And then though, on the other hand, to your point, is like, why, if we want to just read smut, why is that a problem for women? Why is that like, oh, we need to degrade that person for that?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's very layered, complex.
Yeah. And it's all, I think, relative. So like
Sure.
Silver Flames compared to the other ACOTAR books is pretty smut heavy. But in the grand scheme of things, it's not. And it's not why I like it.
sure.
Read all smut you want. I don't care.
Right. That's the thing. Yeah.
And it's also like, okay, if a guy is saying that, like, show me your search history.
right.
Like, show me your Twitter. If you're so bold, like,
Scroll your FYP for me.
yeah, so FYP for
Right.
me. Like, I don't even want to hear it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, that's the other thing, is I think it's a definite double standard. I just think like men are conditioned, like maybe not all men, but I think most men are conditioned to like hide it. And so I think women, I think it just being like a part of books, and also men like don't read. And men also men aren't reading fiction anymore as well, which I think is so interesting. So I think like you have this like cultural flip happening right now where like all these women are reading fantasy books now, and even like more like masculine fantasy books, like the Brandon Sanderson universe, like all of those things are like more boy, whatever. But it's like men also are like stopped reading fiction. And I think that's really interesting as well. And anyways, I could get into my whole like anthropological view of that, but we'll just continue talking about books.
Well, I think in that vein, this like rhetoric of like women only read fantasy if it's smut is doing such a disservice to these authors as well, because they're being kind of siphoned into this category of like, oh, these are just girly books, when genuinely, truly, these are books that would rival any like George R.R. Martin or Brandon Sanderson. Like genuinely, they're good. There are people out there, there are men out there that like read these books and they're like, actually, no. Hey, actually, I'm hooked.
Right.
Yeah.
Who is this Selena Sardathian?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I think the waters are getting even more muddy with the rise in romantasy, because you're getting a lot of different types of books
That's so
now.
true.
And I feel like they're not even the same genre anymore, because some of
100%.
them are very like more romance heavy. And then there's more that are like, I guess we'll say plot heavy, but they're categorized the same. And so it's hard to even talk about the genre when you're talking about those two very different styles.
That's true.
Yeah.
I think.
I think also to your point, that goes a layer deeper, and I don't even like know how to verbalize, I think. But even the thought of like, oh, these are just girly books, even that like rhetoric is like, why is that a negative? Why is a girly anything a negative? And it just like speaks to culture and society and everything. But it's like, why are you saying that in a derogatory way? The whole like throw like a girl is an insult. Like you're reading a girly book, that's an insult.
Right. I think of like authors like V.E. Schwab,
Right.
who was like, I'm not going to put my first name out there. We're going to do initial, last name, just so I can be a part of the publishing industry and be taken seriously.
And she tricked me. I thought she was a man.
Yeah.
Me too.
Well, yeah. And then, but to be like, oh, I have to present as a man to be taken seriously in this industry.
And same with The Poppy War. That's a book that's kind of like gaining steam. That's also written by a woman.
Yeah.
Fantasy. High fantasy.
Yeah.
Like devastatingly so is what I hear.
Mm-hmm.
But like that's just another example of like women trying to conform to be a part of a man's world, essentially, which I think the fantasy world previously was.
Definitely.
Yeah, for sure. I think it also makes me wonder, like, going back to studying drowning and how it's like stolen and all that sort of stuff and pseudonyms. I'm like, I wonder how many books out there are actually written by women that we'll never know, that were like taken by a man, or they had a pseudonym of a man so that their book could be published. I don't know. It just makes me think of that.
The Great Gatsby.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But like how many of those things happened could be like endless. But also I think for romantasy, I love the resurgence of it, or the first time. I don't know if it's a resurgence or it's like, oh, this is the first time happening. Because I feel like it is like empowering women and giving women the freedom to be like, you know what, I like this and I know I'm not alone in it. And there's a group of women now with like book talk and the internet and book clubs, like even book clubs becoming a big thing again. It's so fun to watch and be part of something that is so freeing for anybody. In this case, it seems freeing for women to just be.
Yeah. And we hear about that all the time at our events.
Yeah.
They're like, I'm glad I have a place like this. Oh.
Yeah.
Also, I think when you grow up, you're kind of you're told that like books and literacy is important. Books change the world. Like having these ideas. That's why you read classics in high school, like 1984, Lord of the Flies, like that kind of stuff, because books truly like mold how we think about past generations and how we move forward. And I think prior to like TikTok and book talk, we were kind of losing that. Because, like, who wants to read? There's, like, and, like, how are you getting that information? Bookstores were dying.
Yeah.
Things were going under. Yeah. But I think, especially with books that we've read recently, you see all of that, like, goodness that you see in classics smuggled into the fantasy genre so well. Yeah. And I think that is a credit to Book Talk and allowing platforms for these authors and these books to become popularized. I think Book Talk has been such an asset to making reading cool again.
Yeah,
100%.
for sure.
Book Talk has done wonders for the industry as a whole. And probably, sorry to say it, but COVID.
Yeah.
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 Because what else were you going to do?
I read so many books. Yeah.
COVID made me pick up ACOTAR.
No, that's so crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here you are,
Here
talking
I
about it years
am.
later.
Yeah. Right. Fiended over that
Yeah.
book. So good.
What I do love about fiction and fantasy, I think specifically, well, so many things, but I like the way, and we talk about it all the time, how it deals with relevant issues to our culture and society and what we go through now as people and civilization in ways that make you observe it from a different angle and learn differently rather than being like, hey, this happened. You're learning about the Holocaust or whatever it is, and it's straightforward information. When you see it through like a fantasy fake lens, it allows you to see things differently and think about the world differently and how it should run and operate. And I think that's so cool.
Fantasy is so often morally black and white. Like
Right.
there's good and evil. So it really just allows you to zoom out and take yourself out of your context.
Yeah.
Like it's helpful to come back to reality with those thoughts. And I think especially in like a climate that we are now, it's really easy to be so in deep where you're at and not understand the big picture.
Right.
I think it's mostly gray,
Yeah.
Yeah.
The fantasy. Yeah,
Mhm.
I agree.
and which is nice because it lets you form your own opinions instead of the author telling you.
Mm-hmm.
I think like good versus evil is very black and
Yes.
white in it, but the way the characters try to achieve good is very gray.
Yes.
Mhm.
And I think that's just life.
Exactly.
Yeah. I told Olivia, I was like, oh my God, when we were reading Blood Over Brighthaven, I was like, oh my God, you're making me read a book about a man. Because the first chapter is in the male's POV. But it kind of reminded me that growing up, I've always been a fantasy reader. That was like my favorite genre as a kid as well. But like, I feel like a lot of the books I read when I was younger were like male centered
Mhm.
fantasy books.
Mhm.
So you think of like the Harry Potters and like the Percy Jacksons of the world.
Yeah.
And like no shade on them, great books. But now I feel like I exclusively read female main characters,
Yeah.
female centered books, protagonists.
Yeah. I was just thinking that I think I want to read more male written fantasy just for like comparison. And
For sure.
Definitely.
I know
Yeah.
I'm reading The Will of the Many,
I love that book so much.
written by a man, about a man.
About a man. When I started the Brandon Sanderson
Mhm.
universe of it all, I was very hesitant because there are a lot of women in his books, and it's not just men, like it's a very diverse cast. And I was like, women written by men is really scary to me because I think most of the time they're lacking context and perspective. His books, not. Like I've really enjoyed the way that they're written because it seems like he took the time to understand women and
Mhm.
write them from a realistic perspective. But to your point, I think the diversity, you need both.
Yeah.
Like before we just had men written by men or women written by men.
Mhm.
And now we have the opportunity to read a diverse layout of
Yeah.
books and get all that perspective, which is amazing.
You get to choose.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing about Brandon Sanderson, I don't remember what conference he was at. He just had a big book come out in December.
Mm-hmm. Literally big because it's like the size of
Ginormous.
my
yeah.
house.
But I just saw this on TikTok, but people were asking him about romantasy, and he basically was saying he doesn't understand why romantasy is getting such hate. It is fantasy
Mm-hmm.
because people are trying to discredit
Mhm.
romantasy, like his fans, because he
Mhm.
writes like epic high fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
So
And-
he's an advocate.
He is.
Exactly. It's always important to have an advocate, someone in your corner, because
Yeah.
I feel like that's the only way to be heard sometimes,
Mhm.
as we've discussed before, I think. So I love to hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do think though at the end of the day, like people will just always use anything to discredit women. To
Right.
like whether it's like romantasy or Taylor Swift or like
Starbucks.
or Starbucks or like
Uggs.
or like enjoying lip gloss. Like literally whatever, people will just pick at anything to
Right.
hate women. And so or to discredit women for what they've
Right.
done and whatever. And so yeah, and I think that argument is just so obviously, like, besides just being stupid, it is just crazy because ultimately, like, objectively speaking, any industry that has been male dominated for like centuries is like women stepping into the sphere is obviously going to be new and different, which obviously people already hate. And also, like, you just aren't, women haven't had that space for that amount of time. So, like, of course, everything isn't going to be like the Lord of the Rings. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not going to be amazing. And it's also not the same perspective of a man. So, yeah, I think it's like a lot of things. But ultimately, I just think it's a lot of ignorance and fear that comes along with ignorance that makes people so, you know, vehemently against women, and also just like internalized misogyny and misogyny in general.
Right. And I do love, like, there's this whole debate obviously on Book Talk, and I think in the sphere of like men in this romantasy space, because it can be, to me, I'm like, I love it when men like genuinely love these books and want to read them and like be in this space and understand women more and learn more about women by reading these books. I think it's amazing. Like, it makes me so happy. And then on the other hand, you have the people that are like using it for clout and like followers, and they're posting thirst traps, or they're literally just posting videos of like them reading a book.
Yeah.
And the girlies go crazy over it. There's like both sides of the coin.
Which shows you like there's a craving to be understood in this medium.
Right.
Because like men do have it easy. I think of Jordan Fisher, one already famous, but like he posted a singular video reading ACOTAR. Oh, girlies ate it up. And he said, oh, I'm onto something here.
Right.
The girls are starved.
Right.
Okay. Girls are starved. No, finish that.
No, and it's because like women authors have written these female main characters in a way that women feel understood.
Correct.
Women feel understood. And there's the whole saying, girls want a man written by a woman. And it's because they want a man to truly understand them. And I think that is also female main characters. They rock, but truly, 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 it is the men written by women that are the stars of romantasy. Like,
polarizing statement.
I know. But like, if you think about it, you got so many people on Book Talk. Oh my God, Rhysand. I'm here because of Rhysand. Here because of Rhysand. And then you're like, no, Aelin rocks. So like, yeah, both two things can be true.
Yeah.
And I'm fully believe in that. But like, the girlies love a hot man that gets them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's another like really funny thing about romantasy is like thinking that like sex or sexuality is bad anyway. And women reading about sex or sexuality is like, oh, how could you? But I think it's funny because in these books, like literally the girlies are going crazy because the man just worships and loves his woman. Like whether it's in sex or his words or whatever, like
or protection.
Like we're feral over these men because they love the women.
Right.
And respect them. And that's literally it.
Yeah. They're not doing that much.
They're not doing
Right.
that much.
That's so true.
They talk eloquently.
Well, they don't even talk eloquently all the time. It's like, oh, they have feelings and they're voicing them.
Yeah.
They're communicating. They've been to therapy or not. But you know what I mean? Like,
I have a question for you.
uh-huh.
Because you have a husband who also reads the books that we all read.
Yeah.
But was he like a fantasy reader prior to like you getting into it?
Fantasy reader. He didn't read romantasy. Like Lord of the Rings is his all-time favorite series. So yes, he was a fantasy reader before. But he started reading these books because I love the books. And he was like, I want to understand what you love. I want to be able to talk about it. He actually started reading ACOTAR. I remember I have a video of it. We were laying in bed and he was like, I can't read this because ACOTAR is a slow start.
Yeah.
So he would just like read it to me in bed before we went to sleep every night until he got super into it. And he's like, I'm inhaling this via audiobook. But yeah, he was fantasy.
Okay, follow-up question. Has he ever made comment of just like of what the differences are, or like just curious if he sees a difference in like the men?
I don't think he's ever voiced like, oh, hey, I see these differences.
Yeah.
But definitely he speaks on the strong women and how they're portrayed in these books a lot.
Yeah.
Opposed to, yes, he loves Lord of the Rings and all these like classic series or whatever for different reasons, but they're very male forward and also like morality driven even more than like male and female, I guess.
Yeah.
Which is a funny thing for me to say actually, because so is Throne of Glass, and it just feels like it's female driven because that is the minority, but it's the exact same thing.
Right.
It's still morality driven.
Yeah.
So he speaks to that a lot. And liking the perspective of women and different strong women in the books. So yes and no, I guess.
Yeah. I'm sure that's very fascinating from like a man's perspective, depending on what you read. Because I feel like even in romance books, again, who knows what the boys are reading? I know what the girlies are reading.
I do think what's also interesting, like to go a little bit anthropological, is that I think what's also like, okay, so if obviously on the internet too much, like everyone's talking about this like male loneliness epidemic, and I do think it's very interesting that we have the rise of like book talk and just like romantasy at the same time, while we have like so many men on the internet like outwardly being like, I'm alone, and it's like a girl's problem that like nobody wants me. And just like, you know, incels rising in America. And I just think that's very interesting because obviously it's women being like, oh my gosh, like we need to escape. Let me like read all these incredible books and lock into all these amazing men and like incredible couples and like all these things. And I think that's another reason why I think women feel so strongly about these men, because like obviously single girly like on the streets, like it's bad. It's so bad out there. And so it's almost like for women, it's like an escape. And there's so many single girlies reading these books, like so many, if not probably all of them. Honestly, it feels like it. But it does just feel like an escape out of like the reality, which I think is the other reason why it's so popular.
Yeah,
and so comforting as well, because it's like it's grim out there, and so it's just nice.
In these books, you don't see women settling, so I think you just have a elevated standard for men. In general, we know that like women are getting, or people as a whole are like waiting longer to get married, waiting longer to have kids. Like everything is on a much more delayed timeline than it was 50 years ago. And so having books like these where like the women are strong, they're perfectly capable, but they do choose to have a man. Yeah. And that is something that I think gets lost sometimes in like the feminist narrative. Is that like feminism doesn't mean you can do it all on your own and you want to and you don't need a man and men suck and all this stuff. No, you get to choose what that looks like for you. Yeah. And hey, these female main characters, they don't need a man. They don't have to have a man. Their life doesn't revolve around having a man, but they do choose to let the men in their life help them. Right. They do choose to bring the men in their life around because those men are bringing something to the table for them. They are allowing that these women to operate in their autonomy, in their strengths.
Do you think that's part of the reason why culture kind of like looks down on romantasy? Like they're worried about women raising their standards?
I think so, because as you're talking, I was thinking there is that narrative that women now, you're going to read these and then have unrealistic expectations.
Right. And like, what do you mean? Like, no, I don't want you to have wings and like, winnow me around. Like, that's an unrealistic expectation.
Right.
You treating me with respect and as an equal with autonomy is not an unrealistic expectation.
You don't even have to go to war. Like,
literally, no one's drafting you. You're fine.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I think the other thing, like I was gonna mention the whole like feminism thing, like what you were saying, is I do think like that is such a common like misinterpretation of like what feminism is, and I think a lot of the fear around the books is that like people are just afraid that women are gonna just like never settle and never settling essentially just means being alone. And I think the fear also comes from women. Like I've heard this concern from women of being like, well, you're just wrapped up in like all of this fake world, like you're not, you know, learning anything, you're not whatever. But
like, I'm smart enough to tell the difference between reality and a book.
Yes, exactly. It's like, what? You think I'm schizophrenic? Like, what's going on here? Yeah, like, exactly. But it feels sometimes that people, like the girlies, are literally like trying to gaslight me and feeling like I'm crazy for enjoying something. But I think that's the other part of it. But I think so much of the enjoyment is actually reading about women having autonomy, even like within a very committed relationship. And I feel like the men that are written are also not like weak men. And I think that's another misconception that I feel like men and women have about these male characters is that these men are like just like, oh, like whatever you need, or like, oh, like I'm just here to support you. It's insane. Like of course there's an element of like emotional support and care because like every human being deserves that, but there's also like an element of like these men like being men, like protecting them, doing things that like men like should do.
Most men.
Yeah, the most men, like being hard, being like stern, being scary, like being violent, being aggressive, being like full of wrath, like all those things like all the men in these books feel and do, but they have the morality and the integrity to back it up. And I just think in real life it's difficult. Like that doesn't, I've seen that seldomly done well, especially in like a committed relationship. So anyways, I just think that's very interesting. I had something else to talk about as well, and it actually ties into my favorite video on the internet. It's a Wired interview with a historian who she focuses on witches and like witch history just across the world and whatever. But it reminded me because to your point about women and sex. So she shares how back in the day, the whole reason why like witches, like the brooms became about, like they fly on brooms, is because there was a whole element to, it was really like a tool of misogyny at the time. And so you could just accuse literally any woman of being a witch.
Right.
And the reason why all of the objects that they essentially would use were like meant to be phallic symbols, because the whole like sex of it all was such a taboo subject. And so like a broomstick, I can't remember what else she mentioned, but there's like other things around the house that like, and they're all like home things because that's where women were working. Yeah. And so it was just very interesting, like how essentially this like perverted image of a woman came from misogyny and also this like fear around sex and women came around that. So anyways, I feel like it almost perpetuates that same idea that has been around for centuries of people of just like they're burning witches even if you aren't one, you know? Anyways, had to get that off.
No, yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
It reminds me of a different video that I saw that was a woman talking about the Salem witch trials and just like breaking down what actually they were. And it was women who owned land. So like they were widowed or it was passed down or whatever. For whatever reason, they owned the land because you couldn't just buy it as a woman. People would accuse them of being witches because anybody could accuse anyone of being a witch. And oftentimes the accuser would get the land that they accused the person of being a witch. So they were incentivized. The men were going around saying like, oh, you're a witch because it was a land grab and they wanted more power, more everything. It's just crazy. Because it's just like, yeah. It sounds crazy because that's so far removed from what we do today. Obviously, it's far more extreme. These women were dying. But villainizing women for a land grab of power happens every day, all day.
Yeah. And ultimately, like those seeds of misogyny are in American culture,
Absolutely.
Whether you like it or not. And like they're going to always be there and they're going to look different.
Right.
And I think what I love so much about this genre in general is that like you see what a partnership would look like.
Yeah.
If we weren't like at each other's throats, if we weren't so like villainizing of women, villainizing of men, we see how strong partnerships can really elevate everybody.
That's a great point. Yeah.
I am such a like proponent of, we see so many different kinds of female main characters. I think of A Study in Drowning all the time because that's such a strong female main character in such a different way.
Yeah.
And you have all the SJM women, all very different, as we were discussing earlier, all very different, strong in their own ways. And I don't think that feminism is looking at someone who's like, I want to be strong in my house. I want to create a good environment for my family. I want to stay home and be with my children. That's amazing.
That's great.
That's so phenomenal. I want to support you and cheer you on with that.
Yeah.
I also think it's looking at someone who's like, I really don't want to get married. I don't want to have kids. I want to excel at my job. I want to contribute to society. Great.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Do it in your own right.
Yeah, feminism isn't about what you choose to do with your life. It's the fact that you get to choose what to do with your life.
Exactly.
And
100%.
that you should also like have a partner that understands that any work that you do in or outside of the house is valuable as much as whatever they're doing outside of the house or in the house. It doesn't matter. But like all of that work contributes to society at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And I think that's the other piece of the books that are so amazing, and just reading in general is like you get that perspective.
Even like with the SJM and like ACOTAR of it all. And I know it's because we don't have much about Elaine yet that people like tend to not like her and think she's boring. But I do think a little of it could be internalized misogyny, because Elaine so far has chosen a life of, I like to be in the garden. I like to bake. I like to do traditional feminine things. That's what makes her happy. And for that reason, people are like, she's boring. She has no substance.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
But I do love that in that literature and others, you get all of the different women, to your point. Like, Nesta is like a baddie. She's like, I'm just going to go kill everybody because I'm crazy. But Elaine's like, I want to bake. And they're both strong and different and like variations of womanhood.
Now that I'm thinking about it with Silver Flames, I was wondering as you were speaking, do men not like romantasy because it relegates men to a supporting role rather than like a leading role? I think in Silver Flames would be such a great example because you see Cassian actually have like a POV and he is actually being elevated. You're actually going through like a job promotion with Cassian as he's like navigating having this woman who, I'm not going to say she's not difficult.
Very difficult.
But who's going through stuff and who's also a main character baddie in her own right. So I think if given the opportunity to read romantasy, you do very quickly realize men are not only a supporting role in a woman's world. Again, coming back to the partnership and the partners that they are.
You're both supporting each other. That is the point.
Exactly. And just how much stronger they both are at the end. Because I know some people have issue with like romantasies. It's all going to be happy endings. Everyone's going to end up together in the end. Everyone's going to be coupled up. Like, okay, God forbid a girl want to fall in love.
Right.
On top of be a baddie.
Yeah. And on top of save the world. I have ambition.
Yeah.
100%.
Well, I was thinking about this earlier when, I don't know, we were thinking specifically about SJM. The men are actually more powerful than the women.
Yeah.
For the most part. Even though these stories are like your main character is usually the woman. So that fear of, the men don't matter in these stories, complete opposite actually.
Yeah.
Like Rhysand, most powerful.
Right.
My
He's
lord.
handsome.
He's the most
Yeah.
powerful. Multifaceted men.
Yeah.
Right.
To your point, Cassian was like training Nesta. Rowan trained Aelin.
Yeah.
Dorian has this raw power that's probably more powerful than
Right.
like
Right.
they're just being uplifted.
Yeah. And like truthfully, again, it speaks to the partnership that like women bring to a relationship, because I think Silver Flame's not a good example because Cassian is like emotionally walking through this with Nesta and like training her. But like I think of just like an emotional balance.
Speaks to like this version of feminism that is equality, because everyone needs healing. Everyone gets hurt in life, and like you all need help. You know what I mean? Like everyone needs help. So yeah.
And like I think that also speaks to the need for representation in fantasy. Like there was a void there where women needed to see themselves reflected in the fantasy genre. And so like everyone has this female main character that they really resonate with, whether it be because of the emotional journey that they go on, whether it be that this person is so strong, they've gone through so much, and like I aspire to handle things with grace like that. Like everyone has that now, thanks to that hole being filled. So shout out to all you authors putting yourselves out there, really making it, really doing what you can, because I know there are women everywhere that appreciate it.
Yeah. The four of us do.
For sure.
Book club, book talk.
Yeah.
The world.
No,
Always
right.
booked.
Always
Yeah.
will. And I think it speaks to the nuances because, like we were saying, every female character that we read about is different. It speaks to the nuances of women as a whole.
Yeah.
Like there are aspects you can relate to here and there, and like maybe not one full character, but like there are things you can take from each one.
Yeah.
I
I
just love
even
it.
think about like, it's like a kind of silly example, but you guys know this. In my last doctor's appointment, there was a lump that was found on my breast, and I was like spiraling, freaking out because my mom had breast cancer last year, and I was like, "OMG, you've got to be kidding me!" And also, I'm like, I'm young, I'm vivacious. This is not happening. So I'm spiraling, and I had to do like the mammogram and ultrasound and all this stuff. And literally, when I would spiral, I would just be like, "Okay, my name is Aylin Ash River Galathinius, and I will not be afraid."
Right.
And I even tried to use my name sometimes, and I was like,
It doesn't
"No,
sound as good.
I am Aylin Ash River Galathinius."
Right.
But like, legitimately took something that is from a character that does not exist in a world that does not exist to like help me get through something that was very scary and difficult.
Right.
Like,
Not the same, but like me getting fired. I did the exact same
No,
thing walking out of work.
for
I thought about
real.
this morning, actually. I was like, that's so crazy. But
Yeah.
it's just like Aylin could do it. I can do it too.
Yeah.
exactly.
Good chat.
That was such a
I
good
could talk
chat.
about this all day.
I know.
Same.
That's so good.
Thanks for hanging out, guys. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Thanks for reading books.
Yeah.
Thank you, Book Talk, for making this possible.
That,
No
for
Emily
sure.
without Book Talk.
Our
That's
lives
true.
would be so much more boring and sad.
I do
and
agree with that.
Less delicious.
I would
Mine
not
too.
be panic cleaning my cosplay closet for the bug guy to come spray so he didn't think I was a freak without Book Talk.
Exactly.
The sheer panic. I
Right,
was like,
right.
"Ah."
That's funny.
Okay, everyone, please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel or to follow the podcast wherever you're listening. We also have a event coming up, a Court of Villains ball, October 17th. And we're so excited. We've been planning it. We've been talking about it. We have like the most beautiful decor planned. We
Yeah.
have, smoke machines.
The vibes are vibing.
Yeah.
Vibes
Classy-
are vibing.
Classy debauchery.
Yeah, that's
is
what
we're
we
about.
think.
If
Elegant
the-
debauchery.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
those two things like can go together, they will be
Yeah.
for this event, okay? And yeah, we're just so excited about it. Everyone's gonna look so cool. We need to see someone show up as the Vulture, like every single one of
I will die
them,
on that hill.
with the context and all. Maybe someone pull up as Maeve.
No, I
They
would
would
love to
have-
see a maid.
Like that would be so
I
so
also want to
cool.
see a full President Snow.
Right.
Not hot President Snow. I want to see old scraggly
Old
beard
Donald Sutherland.
with
Yeah.
a rose like I want.
Right. Maybe
Some blood.
maybe an Effie trinket just for fun.
What if
She's
I
not
showed
really
up
a
as
villain.
Snow?
Love
I would love
aligned.
the Balrog from Lord of the Rings. Oh my
Yes.
god. Sorry, I'm spiraling.
Absolutely.
No, that's so
The
good.
Eye of Sauron.
The
eye. Oh my gosh,
That's
please someone.
so funny.
Yeah, someone.
Are you
Guys,
joking me?
there's so many amazing
Yeah.
villains and we want to
Morley
see
Gray are
you.
welcome as well.
For
Come
sure.
as whoever you want.
Come as more.
Come as you are.
Come as
you
your villain theory. I don't know.
Ooh, yeah.
Just have fun.
Yeah,
But anyways,
let's just have fun.
we're having fun. We're so excited and we definitely will see you there. If you want more details, please go to alwaysbook.net and there'll be a whole thing on there about it.
Someone
Sign up
come
for
as
our
Ursula.
newsletter.
Ursula.
That's what I'm saying. I feel like it'd be fun.
Tentacles.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Sign up for our newsletter. I think that'll be in the description. Or
Yeah.
how? Yeah. Description or our website. And then all of our links and stuff will also be in the description for any stuff. But yeah, we're so excited. We can't wait to hang out with you guys. And we hope you had fun talking to us today. Love you.
Love ya.
Bye.
Get booked.
Get booked.